Hey guys. First of all, I'm sorry about this lighting situation. I seem to have misplaced my lighting kit somewhere in my move. I'm not really sure where it is, so I just have like a lamp set right in front of me, so I apologize for that. And the acoustics are going to be weird, but I am setting up a studio in my new house, so the next video should be better. But I wanted to get a video out today because you may have seen this ridiculous hit piece about YouTubers this week chronicling a concept that leftists seem to be baffled by. YouTubers from dissimilar political spheres often engage with one another in debate. Shocking. This is from the Guardian hit piece, but the actual report by Rebecca Lewis is more in-depth, so I've linked all of the associated studies and articles below. But I did see that Stefan Molyneux just came out with an hour-and-a-half long video about the study, so be sure to check that out. YouTube provides a breeding ground for far-right radicalization where people interested in conservative and libertarian ideas are quickly exposed to white nationalist ones, according to a report from Data and Society. Although YouTube's recommendation algorithms are partly to blame, the problem is fundamentally linked to the social network of political influencers on the platform and how, like other YouTube influencers, they invite one another onto their shows. The report describes an alternative influence network of about 65 scholars, media pundits, and internet celebrities promoting a range of right-wing political positions from mainstream conservatism to overt white nationalism. They are broadly united by the reactionary position, an opposition to feminism, social justice, and left-wing politics, and present themselves as an underdog alternative to the mainstream media. While the mainstream members of the group typically don't subscribe to alt-right or white nationalist ideals, they do host those who do under very friendly terms. They have these conversations where really openly racist ideas are getting thrown around as if they're perfectly normal, said Rebecca Lewis, the author of the report. This amplifies these ideas. She cites the example of Dave Rubin hosting Canadian right-wing influencer Stefan Molyneux, who openly promotes scientific racism and advocates for the men's rights movement. What the absolute fuck is scientific racism? Is this chick saying that some science is inherently racist? Anyway, members of the network frequently use a live debate format with multiple speakers arguing for hours on topics such as race, immigration, and feminism. This format is particularly challenging to moderate, relying on viewers reporting objectionable content during the live stream. My favorite aspect of this study is that the left is so confused by this concept of open debate that they have created this exhaustive, insane pictograph of our associations, a literal chart of guilt by association with no respect to any of our actual positions, and there I am, smack dab in the middle. But what astonished me more about this was what was actually written about me in the report. First, Rebecca Lewis chides me for allowing my personal experiences to shape my worldview, even though the left only cares about personal experience, their lived experience, their truth, blah, blah, blah. Blonde then discusses going to university and reading Western classics, which led her to develop a deep, lasting reverence and loyalty to Western civilization and a sense of pride for being descended of Western people. As with the conservative testimonials, Blonde describes how her red pilling made her life better. She says she became better educated, ate well, exercised, and took care of herself. This includes acting more feminine and smoothing out relationship issues she had because she was previously too dominant. God forbid I develop a new worldview that drastically improves my life and helps me to become a better person. We don't want these rabid feminists and leftists to start taking care of themselves, self-educating, and aspiring to be better men and women. The horror. Naturally, this was funded by a bunch of leftist organizations. Data and Society is an independent, nonprofit research institute. Its creation was supported by a generous gift from Microsoft. We're thankful for the general project, in-kind, and event support we've received from a range of entities, including, just to name a few, the ACLU, the Gates Foundation, and Open Society Foundations, which we all know is a Soros-run organization. I am not so naive to believe that confusion about YouTube debate format and networking led to such an in-depth and incoherent study. It's not confusion, it's concern. Rebecca Lewis scrubbed her Twitter ahead of the release of the study by her own admission to avoid being incriminated based on her past tweets. I love how the standards they apply to us do not apply to them. But what's more concerning and gives you a greater insight into her character is that she left tweets like this up. She has said on multiple occasions that deplatforming works. We have to remember that that is her stated goal, and she remains unabashed. She wants to pressure YouTube and other platforms into removing us. The sources of their funding obviously agree, and all of the related hit pieces are written from this angle that we are significantly influential and are very effectively radicalizing younger generations. Becca Lewis and her counterparts make it very clear that they view our audiences as lost, angsty, basement-dwelling losers that need to be saved by leftist heroism. They're worried that alternative media has developed a sort of naughty mystique that appeals to younger audiences, and legacy media, with every station's audience averaging in their mid to late 60s, has not only lost the plot with their consuming Trump derangement syndrome, but have lost their influence. So people like Rebecca Lewis are the useful idiots for these billionaire backers that are clearly pursuing an agenda of censorship, but don't want to get their hands dirty or be associated with these tactics. However, there is a huge problem with employing this censorship agenda. In her estimation, deplatforming works because the quantifiable viewership is reduced when you kick people off the platforms. And of course it is if the subject is being throttled on leftist platforms, duh. She isn't considering the aggregate effect of deplatforming, which is that it draws ire from your average non-leftist individual, irrespective of their political orientation. And more importantly, she's not considering the nature of nationalism. By removing us one by one from these platforms, sure, you can harm our income streams and make us less relevant as individuals. But you would have to be a simpleton to believe that that is going to thwart these movements, these ideas in their entirety. I know you're watching this, Rebecca, since you've studied me so diligently, so I want you to listen to me carefully. There is nothing you can do to stop this wave of anti-immigration, anti-feminism, anti-leftist sentiment. This is like a vicious tide that is going to pull you out to sea, and you are powerless to stop the spread of information, even if you take every last one of us out. If you have strong positions, you don't need to deplatform anyone. That is the entire point of the debates we engage in. We don't all agree with one another. Destiny was on this list, for God's sakes. If you had confidence in your belief system, you would be applauding leftists that come on our channels and debate us, rather than slandering them as well. And if you were really smart, you would show your face and enter this realm to engage in debate. Intellectualizing our vague associations, philosophizing the power of alternative media is not an effective strategy. If your ideas are better and you can support them, then we will welcome you onto our platforms. But I know you will never engage us because you will lose. These media experts like Lewis, they study internet culture from afar, but they don't understand why it's so influential, why memes speak louder than CNN pundits, why we have millions upon millions of views and subscribers. Part of that is that they have a robotic inability to detect humor. Another part is that they aren't personable or likable. YouTube personalities aren't carefully crafted and curated as you suggest. We're real people, average people, that have been on a genuinely revelatory journey of understanding ourselves and the lies we've been told by people like you. We represent hundreds of millions of dejected and downtrodden Westerners that are being displaced and that are in danger of being silenced, just as you are trying to silence us right now. More than anything, this study just validates and martyrs those of us that speak up. What a foolish tactic that is. And this is a real threat for the left right now. They're like injured animals, cornered, seeing their grasp of cultural control weaken, particularly through Hollywood and academia. The mainstream media has been exposed. The left is losing control of the government. They're scared and they're resorting to textbook character assassination, which I made a video on last month and have linked below. I'm always able to work in a recommendation of one of my prior videos. Just look at what is happening with Kavanaugh. A claim that is completely unverifiable is being employed in a suspiciously timely manner to delay the vote, and the left has no qualms about decimating a man's character and reputation for their personal and political gains. In the mind of a leftist, the ends always justify the means. Becca Lewis and people like her truly believe that we're living in a patriarchy and that they're valiantly fighting Middle East levels of female oppression. I'm supposed to believe that we live in a vicious patriarchy when a good, upstanding man can be torn down by claims that could be made by anyone, and the left will never allow him to exonerate himself. And the media, people like Becca Lewis, are no different. They believe that they're thwarting fascism, and if the truth stands in their way of regaining cultural and political power, they will discard it readily, happily. Their mission is to unperson us, to slander us, and ultimately to silence us. So, how do we win when literal billionaires are funding campaigns to remove us from our rightful platforms, to destroy our livelihoods? I made a video about a year ago called Should We Employ Leftist Tactics, also linked below. And at the time, I discussed when it's appropriate to get down in the dirt with these filthy cretins. Now that I'm further out from this video, I'm beginning to clarify my position a bit more. I understand that it's vital for us to remain principled and as we gain influence, to not allow power to corrupt as it has with the left and as it always does. On the one hand, I would like to defeat bad ideas in the free marketplace of philosophy, but that is what we have been trying to do. And when we merely talk to one another, even if we disagree, the left views it as an association equal to that of total agreement. So it seems that it's going to be impossible to do this. It isn't like any of these people are going to come on any of our platforms and discuss this. They will be smeared by their own for their associations. Other tactics have to be employed. I think, yes, we should use leftist tactics, but only on leftists that have already deployed such tactics. The key here is control. We cannot indiscriminately engage in destructive behavior. Your typical leftist is not like Rebecca Lewis. They're simply infected by the paradigm and are average, good people trying to do the right thing. They aren't insidious like the Data Society or The Guardian or CNN, even if they are slightly influenced by them. We have to be careful about who is on the receiving end of dirty tactics. And I think the only way to do this is to never preempt them. We should only engage in such tactics as a response to them being done to us, and only on the associated person or institution. I hear the argument that if we continue to escalate, so will the left, then it will boil over. But I think something else will happen. We've all already taken sides. This idea that a bunch of millennials with webcams filming in their bedrooms are radicalizing millions of teenagers is preposterous. They've come to this corner of the internet because they're witnessing the cultural problems that we discuss, and that has influenced them. We have not propagandized these people, Rebecca. You and people like you have. And that's why they seek us out. I think the end game of this is that, like I have recently, will be forced to leave liberal areas and effectively balkanize. We can't share the country with others that don't believe in the same foundational values. And people like Rebecca Lewis who want to take away our most fundamental rights, how can we share the same country? How can we possibly agree on how to run it with such disparate philosophies on governance? One believing in freedom, the other in tyranny. There is no compromise. This is how we defeat the left. We join forces, we regroup, and we keep fighting with our ideas, with our superior arguments and belief systems. I'm not advocating for the abandonment of the free marketplace of ideas or of our fundamental principles. But it becomes clearer with every hit piece like this, with every attempt to assassinate a good person's character, that this is not going to be enough. We have to fight back with every fiber of our being because our enemy is ruthless, has no guiding principles to confine them, and has superior funding. But take heart, even if Rebecca Lewis manages to get my channel shut down tomorrow and you never hear from me again, although I am on BitChute and Gab, linked below, this movement will not just disappear and fade into the ether. There will be another spokesman, another platform, another way to make ourselves heard. Thanks, folks, and I will hopefully see you soon. Bye.